Welcome to Flight Path, a brand new podcast from Tern's R&D exec team. Each week, we invite you into the cockpit for insider's look at our latest launches, current projects, and upcoming innovations. We're so excited to have you on this journey, so let's dive in. Welcome back, everybody, to the Flight Path podcast. We are so excited to kind of return a little bit to our regular scheduled programming. We've had some guests, I feel like, the past couple episodes and just a little bit of a different agenda, but we're going to be diving back in here. My name is David, CEO and co-founder here at Tern. As always, joined by two fantastic co-hosts, Molly, who heads up all of our product, and Brad, who leads up design. We've got some really cool things to share with you today. Before we jump into the classic starting point of the week in review, quick plug, go ahead and click on that subscribe button, that like button, leave us a comment if you're watching this. It is really fun. We look at all of those, and it's just kind of neat to know that this time that we spend every Friday, people actually engage with and they like, and it's useful. So let us know in the comments if any of those things are true. But let's jump in. Week in review. Let's cover what we've been working on this week. Molly, you want to kick things off?
Yeah, it's been a good week. Really back in the swing of things. I feel like the week before it was post on-site catch up and stuff. So good, feels good to have a normal week. I've been deep in spreadsheet land, so we'll dig into this more, but a lot of testing for importing of data. So we can unpack that. My head is spinning a little bit come Friday. And then the other big part of my week has been doing a lot of research as a part of group travel, specifically on collecting payments and trip funds, which we know is important to a significant number of our agencies and advisors. And there's a lot to just like research and understand there. A lot of conversations with agencies around their policies and how they want to make sure they have visibility into kind of all the flow of funds and being able to, if they are working with like net or markup, make sure they're enforcing both their policies around that and also able to automatically collect those things. And then just like the legal and compliance and infrastructure, like handling funds is a whole different ballgame. And so taking a lot of time to educate ourselves, work with experts in the space who have done this many times before, and all really important stuff. But yeah, just a lot of my time and kind of a fascinating new area that we're exploring, and not something that will be in the early versions of group travel, but certainly important for a lot of our partners as we kind of expand the feature set there.
It's like the jigsaw puzzle of like feature requirements and, you know, groups, which is already complex, but then like regulations and compliance and policies and politics. And like, I mean, it's the kind of perfect storm of complexity. But yeah, it's fun to kind of dig into and really understand. Brad, what's your week look like?
Yeah, similar to Molly, I've maybe not have been as deep in the payment stuff, but I've sat in a lot of meetings where I'm constantly having to Google, like, what does this mean? Which is a fun experience, being very much back in learner mode and trying to understand some of the like financial talk and regulation talk. So that's been cool. Other than that, my main focus this week has been on updating our website, which we'll talk about a little bit more and give a sneak preview for folks who are interested in hearing a little bit more about the design process there. And then a few like smaller refinements on the design side. So yeah, have been pairing actually a bit with an engineer on our team to tweak the way some of our tables look in the product to like decrease the space a little bit more, show you more stuff on a screen so that you don't have to do as much scrolling back and forth, and to finally make them responsive on mobile. So you can open up your, just on your phone and things don't look completely broken. Still more work to be done there, always improving, but the table should be drastically improved here either today or sometime early next week whenever we ship that out. So excited about that.
That is so exciting. And yeah, can't wait to kind of do the sneak preview of the website and just all the thought that went into that. That's going to be, I think, a really fun segment of this episode. So make sure you stick around for that. My week has been similar. I've also been in a mix of these kind of payments, compliance features. We'll talk more about that in depth, I'm sure, on future podcasts. I know for some of our listeners, they're like, well, I never take funds from clients and like, I don't care about any of that. And that's totally fine. We will continue to support the authorization models, and that'll be a big part of the Tern platform. But we also know that in this groups environment where you have contracts and net rates and all these kind of different moving parts, that sometimes there is a need to safely manage payments, to do that in a way that is compliant, that is kind of using accounting best practices. And in the same way that we tried to think about credit card authorization in a totally different way that helped the industry operate better and in a way that was more protective, we're trying to do that with payments for those that use it. It will be an optional feature, but spending a lot, that just requires such a level of depth and understanding. And so the learning curve, as Brad and Molly both mentioned, has just been tremendous. So spending a lot of time there as well. But even more of my time this week has been spent on training and onboarding. We had Courtney and Brooklyn on last week in the podcast. People got to meet them. It's just been kind of pouring in time, helping them understand the product, the business, the company, like all the different tools and resources that we have. And so that's been a lot of my time. But then also a lot of the kind of behind the scenes operations stuff that just helps the business run better. So you look at agencies, we have the way that we kind of track agency interest and who's reached out to learn more has been like pretty, I'd say, fragmented. And so trying to get a lot smarter about who's interested, who should we be demoing, like how do we help support them through that process. And it's been a lot of spreadsheet wrangling. I had to clean up about 380 different test accounts from Molly that worked their way into a CRM. And so that was fun, just seeing all the different names that Molly uses to test and emails and how many permutations of her Gmail she can come up with. It's quite impressive, but that has been fun. So I joked with Molly, I was like, I think my spreadsheets might be worse than your spreadsheets, but don't want to get into that too much,
You're wrong.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, maybe speaking of spreadsheets, we are making some serious progress on some of these kind of data importing things. Molly, do you want to kind of kick things off and just remind people like what are these features that we're building? Why are we building them? Kind of bring that to life.
Yeah, and it actually is pretty exciting stuff. There's just a lot of permutations of things that could go quite wrong, and a lot of different sets of data from different systems when you think about porting things over. So we have really two features here that should both be rolling out next week. The first is everyone within Tern. So if you're an advisor, an agent, an agency owner, you have a set of contacts today. And we know that a lot of you want to be able to import historical trips that those contacts have gone on as a part of moving over from another system. And today, you kind of have to build them out as almost shell trips within Tern to do that, which is like pretty time consuming, pretty annoying. You don't really want them on the trip planning board in those cases. It's like a trip from 5 years ago. Like there's really no need to do that. So making it super simple to just upload a list of historical trips associated with those contacts and then see them on the contact record itself. So that'll be huge. That one's actually fairly straightforward. Then we get into importing of agency bookings. So this is for agency owners and administrators looking to shift over to Tern more for like the back office commission reconciliation and reporting. Again, we know that when you're trying to move off another system, you don't want to lose all of that historical reporting data. There's also often trips that are like a year out from now that you have like dozens of bookings for that you actually will still need to be able to reconcile commission for when supplier payments come in. But you, again, don't want to have to like manually go in and add all of those things. So yes, there's a lot of data. It's in 50 different formats. Everyone calls something different. A lot of the data that we need in terms of like the required fields in Tern are not available for export. And so from other systems. And so it's been, very spreadsheet. Like I had, if you caught our episode on flight status updates, I had like 50 different permutations to test. It's similar where I'm like, what happens in this case if like the supplier doesn't match an existing supplier in our system? Like there's just so many different cases to test. And then I also sat down with 3 users to use their real data and import. And it's just fascinating. It's like, if you want to log payments that you have received from suppliers, against these bookings, then in order to do that in Tern, you also need what the date is that you received that commission. the percentage that the agent got. So like brainstorming with these folks, like, oh, if we don't have that data, if it's like how do we actually get it into the columns that we need? And like, so I'm writing up a whole training guide to make it more self-service. So I just rambled on for a while. That's where my brain has been the last few days, but it's been, it's been a lot, but it's been fun.
That, it's like the kind of, I feel like those projects where we only can control so much, right? I mean, we can, but we're sort of beholden to all these different systems that people are switching from and what data they make available and what formats in, and like trying to make that easy across all of that variety is just like sort of brutal, right?
Yeah.
And it's like why these import things are always like so difficult. Brad, anything you're thinking about on?
I was just gonna say, like, it's gonna be really cool because like we for one of the sessions we fully did it all on production for her, so her real Tern account, all of her agents see all of the bookings, like all the imported bookings are in the agent's accounts and in hers. Reporting works well, she can log commission against them, like it's pretty magical. And we even are tracking it in a structured way for agents not on Tern. So like if you had an agent who's using a different system but you still need to import a bunch of their bookings for reporting, like you can do that. So from like a historical reporting standpoint, we don't have it as like an ongoing method of getting that agent data in. But anyways, I just think the way that we're approaching it, once you spend a little time cleaning up the data and like making sure you have the right fields, the payoff is really cool. So it's a really exciting feature.
And just like emphasizing that if you're an agency owner and you're like, oh, I'm kind of curious about Tern's back office, like you take a spreadsheet of your commissions and like the historical reports, you upload it into Tern, and boom, like everything is just there, right? You can start to reconcile, manage that, see the reporting. Like, I mean, that is really, really special.
Yeah.
Brad, any thoughts on this feature from your perspective?
I think the best part about the feature is it's like largely there was no design work. And what I mean by that is like there's not like a lot of UI you as a user need to go through in order to make this happen. There's not like a new page you have to go to like find your imported bookings versus it's just like we've done our best to integrate it into the experience that you have today. And even something like these bookings you're importing aren't part of a trip. Like we could have made them look like anything because there's not a standard for like how you edit something that's a booking that's not within a trip. But we did our best to make that feel consistent across the experience. So it doesn't feel like, oh, there's this like tacked on imported booking thing. It's just like, oh, these are all bookings. These ones happen to be imported, but it all just like feels seamless. And that's really cool.
That's so cool. So we'll probably, I think maybe next week, do like maybe a very quick demo of the feature potentially, right? So we'll probably dig into it more. Anything else that we want to share before we move on?
No, I mean, I think keep a lookout for the product update on importing trips to contacts. Like that'll be, I think, definitely available. We're going to make sure a few more of these beta test sessions go well for the historical bookings, just again, given the complexity before we make more of a splash, but we're looking to at least make it available to folks early next week. So a lot more to come, and you'll be able to catch more in the next podcast, but also in my product update next week.
So exciting. And maybe now kind of switching gears a little bit, one of the other things that we're sort of gearing up for is we know fall can be a really good time for advisors and agency owners to really start to rethink their tech and try and get the right systems in place ahead of the kind of busyness of wave season and the early part of the year. And it's sort of crazy. We're in Q4. We're in the last quarter of 2024 already, which is somewhat shocking. I feel like September just vanished out of thin air. But with that, we're trying to make sure that we're putting the right information in place to help people who are thinking about a switch to Tern, trying to decide if now's the right time to feel comfortable making that switch, to understand how much Tern has evolved over the past really couple months, certainly over the past year. And you all will play a part in that. We'll talk about that here in a minute. But we're also updating our website, which Brad's going to take you through, and just how we thought about that. And then we're also gearing up to announce a webinar at the end of October, just kind of recapping all the things that have shipped since our last webinar. We've made a huge amount of progress, and I think it can be kind of hard to stay on top of everything, especially if you're not a current Tern user, or maybe you've been business is a little bit slower, things have been distracted with back to school or whatever it may be. And so we'll be sending out details about that kind of late October webinar, which we're thinking about as like a summer/early fall kind of in review, covering everything that's happened. This kind of, as Molly said, I think in the last webinar, ahead of getting into groups, which will be the next kind of focus basically for the rest of the quarter. So stay tuned for the webinar details. We got an update for you on kind of some of the referral program at the end of this, but we're going to talk about the website, which is the way that I think almost every one of the people that have signed up for Tern kind of found Tern or landed on that at some point. And Brad's going to talk to you about how we're kind of rethinking it from the ground up.
And you guys, this has been a labor of love for Brad. Like, he's literally waking up in the middle of the night, with ideas. So get ready. This is his baby.
Yeah.
And I love, this is like a little bit of an audible too, but like, I feel like we got to start with just like what the current website, I mean, it's just like, and then contrast it, right? A little bit of a reveal here. So you can see Brad pulling up the tabs here, but like, it has been, I think, neglected, which is just too bad considering that we're getting, I think it's like tens of thousands of views like every month, and I don't think it's telling our story effectively. So we'll compare and contrast, and we'll let you, the viewers, let Brad know what we think of the new version here.
Yeah, if you don't really embarrass him with how much you like it, he'll hate that, and we'll love that.
I love that. David's got to be like, wait, you don't have the flair that I bring to the webinar. You need to bring.
Here's the blah.
Yeah. Okay, let's see here. Find. Oh, sharing. Okay. I think we're good. Is it sharing?
It's sharing. Okay. And I guess we should probably like, what do they call that? Like sports broadcast or something, this, for like, if you're listening on Spotify and like you can't see what we're looking at, we will try and remember to talk through a little bit of what we're looking at.
I think Spotify has video too. So just, That's
true. That's true. Just if you're driving, just look at your phone. Right? No, please don't do that.
no.
Please do not do that.
Right. Let's get yeah. So what we're showing here is our current Tern homepage, and basically what you see on our current homepage is like us maybe updating something once every few months when we have like a moment of like, oh my gosh, this really needs to be on the website, but not necessarily thinking critically about like the overall story on the website and how things fit together. So this is all here, and we mentioned things like AI assist itinerary stuff, but it doesn't necessarily tell the story of like how this adds value for you as an advisor or an agency owner. And you see like we have like given up on updating it, so we're just like, here's all the latest right at the top. Like, just follow our blog posts. That's really what you should be paying attention to. And then we get into some specific features, but I think each section here has a different era of Tern styling that's just kind of evolved over time. So time to like bring that all together and to have like more established patterns for us going forward.
And the navigation, just like try and navigate real quick. Like we were doing these like sales interviews, and like people would like demo the website, and like watching them try and navigate to something was just like the most painful thing I think I've ever seen. Like, it was really bad.
It goes away when you click it or something. Like I had to be like a quick shot to get into the right tab.
Yeah, it's
a little painful. But we're not going to demo the nav on the new one yet because it's not finished, and it's okay. So let's talk about the new one. And before we like show it, I just want to talk about our approach here. And so I think the most important thing for us to keep in mind as we think about making these updates is that like Tern is not finished today, and it's not going to be finished tomorrow. And so we're not building the website that represents like a finished version of Tern. Like, we're shipping new things every single week. And so we're trying to take an approach that's less like, here's the latest screenshot, the latest like exact feature details for every part of Tern, and more about like, when you add Tern, like when you adopt Tern, here's the value you get, and here's how some features fit into that. And try to really make sure that that's the message that's coming across, and it'll make it easier for us to maintain as we do release more features, or we can like link to the latest Help Center article to learn more, but we don't need like detailed descriptions of features on our website, or even necessarily screenshots that are probably going to be outdated in a couple of days just as we ship more and more things. So that's kind of like probably the main difference you'll see. One of the many differences between the current and the new version of the website. So here we are. This again is a demo.
Boom!
It's not I'm like couching it all. David's like, it's perfect. But yeah, I mean, still work in progress. So more refinement to come. But you can see here, like just leading with some of our latest like styling. We've been using this kind of like more toned down purple and blue gradient, really to represent David's background you see on all Zoom calls. So just inspiration here. I don't know what came first, David's room or the gradient, but we got some branding in place. And then on the homepage, really what we're trying to do is give you a quick overview of like features, like what are the, or like value, I guess. What are the things you get from Tern if you choose to adopt Tern? So like some quick call outs here at the top are like really featuring itineraries. That's been our like core of Tern from the beginning. And then talking about all the other ways that you can really scale your business and scale your agency by adopting Tern here at the top. And then we're grateful to have so many incredible agents and agencies who are providing quotes of how their experience has changed since adopting Tern. We're really taking an opportunity to feature them across the website. So every page you see, there'll be a variety of quotes and testimonials from folks. And shout out if anyone is listening and you see yourself on here. So appreciate you, helping support, how valuable Tern has been for you. And then let's go to like an individual advisor or agency page now. So this is just the homepage, kind of where everyone will land. But we recognize that agencies and advisors have different like things they're looking for when thinking about adopting a new system. So created two different views for those different personas. On the advisor side, featuring more of the value and features that an advisor, like regardless if you belong to an agency or not, like need to be successful actually planning travel and working with clients. And so we'll feature more details here, like around the itinerary. And you can see that there's not a lot of language on the website. It's like short, punchy headlines. Here's ideally like the value you're getting or a super quick description of a feature. And then really just like trying to, again, focus on that over like, here's everything you need to know about Tern ever. Read it all now to decide if you're even interested in trying Tern. So let's go through here a little bit. Feature things like itineraries.
And actually, Brad, maybe the option blocks is like a good, just because I know you put a ton of thought into what you were sort of saying at the beginning, which is, Tern is evolving, right? I mean, we're always shipping these feedback and updates based on your feedback as users, which means like the specific UI of Tern changes, right? And like we see this, like we're struggling with this with our Tern and Learn, right? Where it's like we changed the nav, we changed these different things. And so like now it just feels out of date. Maybe just talk a little bit about how you thought about kind of elevating these elements and these principles of Tern without relying on the specific UI components.
Yeah. Thank you for calling that out. I just got so into like, oh my God, like, let's just talk about it all. So yeah, if you're watching, what you see in all the visuals is like something that looks Tern-ish, but isn't like actually what's in the product today. And there's a variety of reasons for that. Like David mentioned, things are changing a lot, but also like just kind of the reality is some things in Tern take time to set up, or there's like a lot more detail you have on a screen that you don't necessarily need to process when you're trying to get a concept across. Like, oh, option blocks exist in Tern. And the reason they're useful is you can collect those preferences in line and cut out a lot of that back and forth. How do we like make that come through without being like, oh, here's all the information that exists on an option block, and here's the UI where like you pick between them. So like simplify, boil down to like kind of the most basic details here in these like almost like illustrations of the product. And then the super like design nerdery thing. One thing you'll see here is that there's no bold text in any of the screenshots. And the point of that is like the bold text is the website itself. Like we want to make sure that's what people are reading. And what's in the illustrations is all just like there for illustrative purposes. It shouldn't be drawing more attention than the copy.
Brad, you used Tern-ish as like that. I'm personally trying to get that to catch on. It probably shouldn't, but it means when something is turny, Tern-ish.
minus that idea.
But yeah, let's go through a little bit more. Like, especially if you're not watching, I know it's not all that interesting, but feature things like AI assist. Again, you see some of our like refined gradients coming in here. Telling the story of a CRM is interesting without just having like a bunch of screenshots of profiles. So talking about what makes Tern unique, like our way of using smart forms to automatically create trips and contacts, the way we have automations and the different types of content you can have in like a more travel focused CRM versus just a generic CRM.
Well, and what I love about this, like, and again, the way that Brad has kind of brought to life this idea of contact automations, like not only elevating that Tern has these automations, but kind of subtly emphasizing the fact that you can automate not just trip related content, but you can automate things about your contacts, like their birthday, their anniversary, like those types of pieces in such a simple graphic. And for those of you that are using Tern, you've seen automations like, this, you can see the inspiration for it, but it's so simple and it's so clear in what is actually being added from a value perspective. So I think it's just so cool how much information these like visuals in their most simplified form can communicate. It's really, really special.
I'm so glad you feel that way. As Molly mentioned, I was like wake up in the middle of the night thinking about these things. So it's been a labor of love, and so glad that everyone else is excited about it too. Yeah, maybe just like one more fun thing to show. Like, honestly, probably one of the primary pages that folks visit on our website most often is the product update that Molly ships every week. And so we tried to make this just like more readable. I think Molly is constantly fighting with our current version to like get the spacing right, to make things look better and like easier to process and parse. So spent a bunch of time refining like our blog post styling as well to make sure that that's more easy to actually go through. And yeah,
I did not know this. This makes me so happy. I'm literally learning this on the podcast. So I hate it. I hate the old format.
Yeah, so it should be better. We actually finally like have the featured image on the blog post. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah.
And then yeah, one other thing here is we do link to all of our podcasts from the website now too, which we just hadn't. We've been doing this for months now, and we haven't really, I don't know if we've had any link from the website. So on there you'll be able to see both the latest episode and then also like brief like recap of the episode as well.
Is that the one where you lost your lights in the basement, and is that in the recap? Very important question.
Did that get picked up? I don't know.
There was definitely one of these that...
Oh yeah, it was Brad's basement blunder. Did you see that?
Yes, I saw that when I was editing.
Was that
in the recap?
There it is.
Yes, fun moments. Okay, spoiler alert for those who wonder where those came from. We do use AI to take the full transcript of this and summarize it. So I absolutely love that it's calling out Brad's basement blunder. And I also feel like that's something that only AI would say. Like, but it's just so good. Like, well, that will be, I mean, I'm so excited about this. I mean, it just tells the story of Tern so much more effectively than our current website. I mean, Tern is such a broad platform today, and the website that we have or had, depending on when you're listening to this, just didn't tell the story of how much the platform had matured. It didn't tell the story of how much innovation is in this platform. It didn't tell the story of the fact that this is not only a great system for individual advisors, but for agency owners, right? Like we still were referencing like a webinar where we were going to talk about the agency idea on the old website. So the refresh content, hopefully the increased longevity, like I think is just going to go a really long way and helping people understand the benefit of Tern, that if you're a user, hopefully you feel every day. But if you're considering Tern, you're trying to research it, right? Didn't communicate a lot of the Tern brand. So hoping this will launch soon, either today, early next week, over the weekend. Like this should be going live. And again, just a huge labor of love on Brad's side in particular to really get this in a place where we're really proud of it. One of the other things that we're doing, we know a lot of traffic comes to the website, whether it's from search or social or these different pieces, but a lot of the traffic also actually comes from you all, current users who are talking about Tern in their social channels, talking about Tern in their communities, sharing it with people who are just joining the industry. And it's a pretty significant part of our business that comes from referrals. And so kind of as a celebration, a little bit of the kind of new website and really thinking about the fall being a great time to level up your business from a systems and operations perspective ahead of the really crazy busy holiday and early wave season time. We will be running a special. I think it's going to be basically from when the website launches or maybe even today through probably October 15th. where anybody that you refer in that time frame, you and them will get double the referral bonus. So today we have a referral program. In fact, maybe I'll just do a audible here and try and share in case people don't know how to find it. You can go in, I'm going to share this, and you can actually, in turn, if you're a current user, go up to your settings, and over on the left-hand side, you'll see that there's this referrals tab. And if you click on Get My Code, it will generate this unique code for you, and you can share that with anybody, and they will get a $10 discount off of their first bill. That can be applied to a monthly subscription. It can also be counted towards an annual subscription if they want to get an even bigger discount. But from now until October 15th, we'll be doubling that. So you will get a $20 discount. If somebody signs up with your referral code, you'll get $20 off of your next Tern bill, and they'll get $20 off their first Tern bill. And so you start to do the math here, and you start to think about, we have a 20% discount for an annual subscription at $379. You take $20 off that again, like annual becomes a really, really compelling deal. But if you want to stick with something monthly, it's also almost 50% off your first month in addition to that 14-day free trial they're going to get. So again, we want to do that as a recognition that we've got a great website. We're super excited about it. It's a really new thing. But at the end of the day, you all and the stories that you share with your peers are what helps grow Tern and helps us able to do what we do every day. So we wanted to highlight that. And with that, we'll move into the final segment, week ahead. What's going on, Brad? Once the website ships, you're going to have so much free time on your hands, right? Like what's up next for you?
Yeah, I can't even imagine life without working on the website. No, I mean, the big project we're going to be working on next week is upgrading our email integration, which I think we've talked about in the past. And there are actually a handful of really nice UX improvements that'll come with this. So like managing your availability, connecting your account, like things like that. We got a preview it from an engineer yesterday, and already super excited about it. Probably be like some refinements there on the design side just to make sure everything looks great within the context of Tern. But that'll probably be a chunk of my time. And then shifting back into group mode. That's the main focus. Will be like thinking about what the very first release of this is. Again, not building everything at once, but like what's that first little piece we can get out there to start making it easier to manage groups in Tern.
Love it. The magic word, groups, it's coming. Molly, what's your week looking like?
Yeah, I mean, Brad covered it, making sure we're good on the email transition side of things, and I'll continue to live in spreadsheet land to release that kind of historical import of data features. And it is really exciting on the groups front. Like, this is the last, like what we've talked about on this podcast are the last things that big things will continue to ship these, like, what we consider these smaller, like, wow, amazing things in parallel. But like, they're really the last big features that we'll be doing before groups. And so it'll be fun because on these podcasts, you'll get to hear every single time the details of like exactly what we're planning out for the next chunk of groups, which I think will be really fun. I think people will get a kick out of that. So lots to do in groups land over the next few weeks.
Yep. So excited about that. I'll wrap things up. My week next week, it's going to continue to be a lot of onboarding and training for folks, continuing a lot of this kind of behind the scenes ops pieces, but then also gearing up for or presenting at a conference the week after that on a cruise ship, which will be my first time ever attending a conference at sea. So that'll be interesting. And so just kind of a lot more prep, a lot more kind of getting ready for that, a lot more onboarding and training and kind of more of the same. And of course, continue to learn about all things finance and spreadsheets and all the good things. So that's our episode for today, y'all. Let us know in the comments what you thought. Don't forget about the referral promotion running through October 15th. And again, grateful for all of your partnership. Let us like, subscribe, do all the podcasty things that I'm supposed to say, and we will see you next time.